Hello, everyone! Happy Tuesday! I hope you're all doing great. I am doing great, and we have an exciting show for you today. Today's show is going to be really, really cool. But I hope everyone's having a great week. My name is Jessa Blackthorne, and this is Much Ado About Gaming, the show from WizKids about our upcoming board game. We talk about board game releases, we talk about board game news, we do unboxings, and, like we're doing today, we do interviews. So we are interviewing one of our designers today, and that's going to be really exciting. And before we do the interview, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the game that he designed. So let's go on to this game. And the game is, of course, we announced it a couple weeks ago and we unboxed it a couple weeks ago. It's summertime. It's upside down. Summertime. Summertime. DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Summertime. So this is an awesome game, and what's really cool about it is it's available right now. So I'll mention this again at the end of the show. But if you hear about this game, you're just hearing about it now, you're interested, you decide you want to get it, it is available right now. You can talk to your friendly local game store and have them order it. You can get it right away. Perfect for summer, perfect for lounging at the pool, by the beach, being very careful with your cards while doing so they don't get in the water. But enjoying the game right now in the summer, as it should be. So, what is this game about? It is summertime, of course, and it's based on the very popular DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince song. It's an iconic song from the 90s, and you are invited to hang out with the Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff at the hottest spots in Philly. You're gonna cruise, groove, and unwind across town, trying to vibe with them to prove that you're the coolest in the crew. Do you have the energy to keep up with everyone else who has their eyes on the crown? So, this is a quick and clever card game. It's inspired by the classic hit song, and players have to outwit each other in a series of tricky decisions. First, players are going to reveal a card for a spot, so it could be a block party, a car show, a family reunion, and then the cards have 5 different vibes on them. And then players will pick an action card to play, maybe an energy card or potentially a boost card. You play those all at once, so all the play is simultaneous. And your goal is to, whoever has the most energy wins that spot. And players also have their own individual vibes, so they're trying to match their vibe to the vibe of the spot for even more points. There's also a set collection aspect to the game as well. If you collect spots that have matching vibes, or there's another thing that you match that I can't think of the name of off the top of my head, but if the spots are collected as a set, you get even more points, and then the player with the most points at the end of the game wins. So it's a really cool, really fun game. It's a very laid back kind of feeling, but it's still got a lot of like strategy and a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot going on in the game, but it's not complicated. It doesn't feel complicated, but it is very mechanically clever, and it does have a lot of interesting things that you can do with it. It's got a lot of replayability because, the spots, the way they're going to come out, the player vibes, things are going to be coming out differently every game. So there's a lot. And look at it! It's so cool looking! And as you can see, I'm wearing my shirt again to go with the extraness and the vibe of the game, because I just think it's so cool and so much fun. So now it's 2 to 4 players for ages 10 and up. It plays in 20 minutes, so it's a nice quick game, and it's only $19.99. And today I have, and I'm really excited about this, I have one of the designers of Summertime here today that I'm going to talk to, and his name is Omari Akil, and we are gonna, you've seen some pictures of the game, I've told you about the game, now let's talk to Omari and learn a little bit about Summertime. Omari, hello!
Hey, what's up, Jessa?
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Yeah, of course. This is awesome. We've been thinking about this moment for quite some time.
Yay! I'm so glad. I love this game. It's so much fun. It's such a great little game, and it fits in my bag. We went down the shore. For those of you who are not from Jersey, that's to the beach. over the weekend, and I brought this with us. I did not get a chance to play it this weekend, but I did bring it. I intended to play it. So I might just play it this weekend so I can pretend I'm down the shore and playing it.
Nice.
So, why don't we dive right in? This is a pretty unusual concept for a game. It's a game about a song. That's not something you see a lot. Can you talk about kind of the background of the theme and kind of how you arrived at, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince's song "Summertime" as the theme for your game?
Yeah, sure. So I think it started just myself designing games and kind of just like being around a lot of other game designers and publishers. I had actually showed a couple games to WizKids, and I think they saw a lot of potential there. And eventually they reached out to me and said that they had the DJ Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince license, and if there was anything that I could do with that, and so me and Hamu went back and we were like, "Whoa, DJ Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, like, what does that even mean? How do you make a game about them?"
Right.
I mean, we had a little bit of experience making a hip hop game, so with Rap God, so that gave us, I think, a little bit of freedom, and we felt really creative, and actually listening to their songs for inspiration was kind of the first part.
Cool.
And going through and see, okay, what's there. And we had a couple songs, so "Summertime" and "Parents Just Don't Understand" were the two songs that we were like, you know what, there's probably a game here.
Yeah,
you could probably make a game here. And it really came down to one of those two songs, and we were like, which one kind of works the best? And "Summertime" stuck out to us because we were actually thinking about some games that we had started working on, but that weren't finished yet. So we had some mechanics already, and "Summertime" just fit almost perfectly with one of them. So we were like, yeah, that's the one.
Cool. That's a great story. I mean, it's like, it's so interesting that it's based on a song, because like you see games based on movies, you see them based on TV shows, based on people, but songs is like, it's fairly untouched territory. So you're like, you're trailblazing here doing this.
A little bit. I did appreciate that. Yeah, we were able to do it with a song, and I think a part of it is that a lot of hip hop is about like a story, like it is telling like a specific story of a thing that happened, and so that's what made it sort of easy to do "Summertime. Is if you listen to the lyrics, it's literally telling a story. So we didn't have just a song to work with.
Right.
We had an entire little world that they built just in the song and in the video.
That's
and that was nice to work with, actually.
That's really cool. Yeah, I can imagine. So you mentioned that you and Hamu had worked on another game before, Rap Gods. Can you kind of talk about that and, what that experience designing that game was like versus maybe this game, or, just the background on that game a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, Rap Gods is the first game that me and my brother published. It's through our publishing company, Board Game Brothas, who obviously was able to partner with WizKids on this. And so that game had a slightly, I would say, a connected process because they were both about hip hop, and the storytelling aspect was one of the biggest things that we wanted to put in Rap God. So we were able to develop that game with a story behind it. So you're an upcoming artist and you're trying to make it in the industry.
Wow.
And so the game is about telling that story, which was really a cool, I think, way to approach a hip hop board game. But that lended itself well, I think, to what we had here, because we were working with a lot of the same ideas, right? Like they're artists, they're creatives, and they're going around to all these spots in Philly, and like we wanted that same energy, that same drive, like present in both the games. So it was, I think it helped that we had been thinking in that way, and we wanted the experience to be similar in terms of like, oh yeah, this is a cool, chill, laid back game. We want strategy in it, but we also want you to finish and be energized and ready to play again.
Hmm.
And I think that we were able to do that pretty well.
Yeah, so that's amazing. I love, especially because it's hip hop's not a common theme in games. I mean, maybe it will become more popular now. I hope it does, because it's a very unique theme. I can see the game right behind you, and it's really awesome that you're working to trailblaze these new territories and to come up with these new themes that people maybe haven't visited yet. You have a million fantasy games, you have a million mystery games, but how many hip hop games do you have? And when you think of hip hop games now, you're gonna think of Omari and Hamu. That's amazing.
That's pretty great. And yeah, I mean, that's our philosophy too.
Mm-hmm.
We look at, like farming games. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many farming games, but there's so many different ways to do it. And we
Right.
see, hip hop the same way. It's
Mm-hmm.
like we could make 4 or 5 different types of hip hop games
Mm-hmm.
if we wanted to. Like there's plenty of room for that. And yeah, we like playing around in that territory. It's weird and cool and fun.
Incredible. Well, the process being fun makes it even better.
Oh yeah.
So you mentioned that you'd kind of already had a game partly built, and then when you figured out that you wanted to do the song, you kind of took it that way. So so I guess my question there is, once you decided to pair the game and the game and the song, how did the song inform the rest of the design process?
Yeah. So what we originally started with was actually a game about graffiti crews. And the reason we kind of matched them together is
Mm-hmm.
because that game, and it wasn't quite done. We had a nice kind of core concept laid
Mm-hmm.
out. Um, but it matched so well because that original game is you were graffiti crews and you were going around to different spots
Mm-hmm.
and trying to tag them, and you had to tag them by sort of um, by playing cards
Mm-hmm.
and having the at the end of the round you just needed to have the most number of graffiti crew members at the spot to take it.
Gotcha.
And then when we were listening to the song Summertime and
Mm-hmm.
thinking about what a game could be about, we were
Right.
like, well, yeah, there's all these cool places that they mentioned in Philadelphia, like
Mm-hmm.
party spots. And maybe, we could do something with all these spots. And we started describing it, and it was like almost the same, like events that were
Yeah.
happening. I was like, oh, we're going around to all these spots. It was like, well, yeah, that
Mm.
happens in the graffiti game too. It's like, ooh, we're trying to have the most crew members. It's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, kind of you want to be the coolest person at the spot, right? Like
Right.
everybody's there kind
Mm-hmm.
of showing off, kind of, you know, being yeah, trying to embrace the party spirit and energy. It's
Mm-hmm.
like that could be the mechanic. And
Mm-hmm.
so we just knew, we were like, okay, this is the right setup,
Mm-hmm.
but how do we turn it into summertime?
Right.
And when it came time to actually get the song
Mm-hmm.
into the game, it was okay. This is really about like you're proving something, right? Like you want to be a part of the crew. You want
Yeah.
to show DJ Jazzy Jeff from Fresh Prince that they're glad they invited you to the party.
Right.
And how do you do that? And
Mm-hmm.
so we used a similar system that we had in the original game.
Mm-hmm.
We had this simultaneous sort of reveal,
Mm-hmm.
and we wanted that to stay because that was kind of the most fun. It's like you show up at the spot
Mm-hmm.
and your cards are on the table, right? Everybody flips at the same time. Let's
Right.
see what you got, right? So it's that kind of feel. And what we mainly did to sort of simplify the process, because we
Mm-hmm.
knew this was a game about DJ Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince and the
Mm-hmm.
song Summertime, that people would kind of look at that and want to try it out. So we wanted it to be quick and fast and easy gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
So we shortened the game by removing the second phase. So in the graffiti game, we had a day and a night.
Mm-hmm.
And so for this game, it really wasn't necessary.
Right.
The day and night thing didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So we took that out, and it really shortened a lot of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we also changed some of the scoring. So it was doing the set collection piece between the spots was really fun to us because we got to say, so like, yeah, the haircut and the party go together, because if you want to be the coolest at the party,
Right.
getting a haircut before is probably a good idea. So we put those kind of things in the game, and the car wash and the car show, like those go together.
Yeah, of
So you
course.
can get extra points by getting both of those.
Yeah.
So we got to play off of all of the other ideas and things that were happening in the song.
That's yeah. I mean, it's really clever the way you were able to pair those things together, and it's really cool that, you know, the graffiti game already had so much built in of what Summertime wanted to be. Like, that's
Yeah, and
fantastic.
we started with graffiti also because it was like hip hop adjacent. It's like street art and graffiti is something that kind of came out of similar movements at the time, and
Right.
we were just, yeah. I think because of that, it also helped the feel of the game and the tone of the game to transition pretty well when we created it as Summertime.
And I think you can definitely feel the influence of the kind of graffiti thing in the visual aesthetic of the game. You know, the way the cards are and the colors, and, you know, it's that very, like, loud late 80s, early 90s thing, but that is so influenced by graffiti. So
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the type of art that came out of the game, and we were so impressed with how WizKids handled all the graphics. Yeah, we felt that immediately too. It felt like the game it was supposed to be, because
Right.
we had gotten to a point with the graffiti game where it was a cool game, but it didn't really feel like the graffiti sort of like underground thing that we wanted out of that. So we just had it sitting on the shelf, and we were waiting for something to do with it.
well, and you found it.
Did we ever? Yeah.
Quick shout out to Panda Angel in the Twitch chat. Panda is saying Omari is amazing. I love all his games. I'm excited to play this one. Thank you so much for being here, and we love you too. So continuing on kind of with the design process, you know, you kind of described how it progressed after you got the theme of Summertime. What was it? Can you talk about the design process, like, before that, like the very beginning of the design process?
Absolutely. So when we first started out developing this game, we were trying to work with a smaller package. So we were like, let's design a game that just uses, I think we decided on like 80 cards was where we were shooting for originally. So that was one thing. We wanted to design a small game, but we wanted to design a fast game.
Right.
And so we were trying to figure out what sort of game elements would help the game move along faster. And I was just a big fan of simultaneous reveal games at the time. And so we decided that was a good component to start with, just to get the idea of like a quick, fast game started. And from there, it was fascinating because we didn't exactly know what the graffiti theme, like, what the story of that was. So I think that's actually was one of the challenges with designing that game, is that we wanted it to be competitive, but we also wanted all of the crews to have some camaraderie between them.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of hard to do that. So we wanted a competitive element, but we actually wanted a little bit of a cooperative element too.
Right.
And that part was actually one of the things that I think didn't work as well in that design. We couldn't get both those things to come across. One of the things that came out of that and that design was actually something that is a part of Summertime too, is this really cool thing that happens at every different player count. The game just has a very different feel.
Okay.
And that was something that we felt in that early design process. And we actually wanted to keep that a little bit. So when you're playing just a 2-player game, it felt more like you were playing the other player. Like it was a more sort of intense, like brainy game, trying to figure out what the other person is doing. And then when you're playing at 4 players, it's more chaotic. There's more happening.
Yeah.
So, and you can't predict what everybody is going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to play a very different game. You have to take a kind of
Mm-hmm.
different approach to playing. And we saw the different sort of gameplay styles at
Mm-hmm.
different player counts. And that was interesting. So we were like, yeah, let's try and hold on to that. So part of the design process was just picking out, okay, we like this simultaneous reveal. We like that it feels different at different player counts. And a lot of the other pieces were very much in flux, trying to sort those out. But I think we kept those good parts.
I agree. I think that it I've only played it at 1 player count. I've only played it with 3 players, but like I got the impression reading the rule book that it would feel very different at a different player count. And I hope that I get to try it with other players soon so I can actually, be like, yes, this is absolutely how it feels.
Yeah. I think the 3-player count is kind of in a weird way a sweet spot, because you're pulling at both of those ideas, right? Like, it's not quite chaos. Like, you can predict some of what your 2 opponents are going to do.
Yeah.
And you can kind of work within that. And because there's that rock, paper, scissors element, there's always a chance that things can sort of be tangled up with just 3 people.
Right.
So you're kind of like avoiding getting tangled up too with the rock, paper, scissors part with the action cards.
Yeah, no, and I also like the rock, paper, scissors. Maybe that's because I won a rock, paper, scissors championship once, and so, like, for me, I'm like, I feel lucky. But it's a set collection plus rock, paper, scissors plus, like, simultaneous. Like, it's really cool. I think the way that everything kind of synergizes in this game.
Thank you. Yeah, that when we were looking for mechanics that would be very easy for people to pick up, and rock, paper, scissors is one that so many people know and understand already, and so it was easy to layer that on top of some of the other ideas that we had.
It's a nice way to combine simple mechanics with additional strategy to make a really satisfying experience gameplay wise.
Yeah. And I mean, that's always what we're looking for. Our games are they always feel a little bit experimental in whatever way that we're going about it. And I think this is the case. It's a few mechanics that I just really kind of felt they should be put together. And I think we got to a really nice place with it.
I agree. So what were your biggest challenges as you were designing the game? Like, what would you say were your main obstacles?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest obstacles when it came when we started transitioning and trying to figure out what it looked like as summertime, there was and this happens, I think, in every game we design, is really trying to stay true to the source material and trying to have a game that really matches the tone of the source material. And so I must have listened to Summertime 1,000 times in a row, like during the months where we were working on the game. And for me, I was taking every lyric and trying to figure out like what it could add to the game. And I think that part was actually difficult. Song lyrics don't always give you a lot. We had a framework for a story and a framework for a game from the song lyrics. But it's still just song lyrics, right? They have a different intention. So we were able to pull a lot of the keywords from the song out. Like, that's how the vibes came about. So like chillin', buzzing, maxing, relaxing, it's all part of the song. We were able to pull that out. We were able to pull out the family reunion. And we were trying to work within the action cards. And we were like, how do we make those sort of fit and make that a rock, paper, scissors part seem like it was a part of the world too. And so yeah, cruise and unwind and groove, more keywords. But we tried to make the actions in the relationship between those cards work too. So like unwind lets you draw a boost card.
Right.
And we thought that worked well because it's like you're relaxing, you're getting some energy back, sort of recovering. And so that lets you draw a card from the boost deck, which you can use for later rounds. So you're prepping yourself for the next round potentially. And so we were able to do some things like that to really make it work with the lyrics and the feel of what's happening in the song. But it was tough just working purely off of lyrics, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, songs are definitely such an abstract medium that, you know, trying to ground that abstract stuff into something relatable to someone who can play something is I imagine it's a massive challenge. But you guys rose to it.
It definitely was.
So what would you say are, you know, like your number one favorite aspect of the game? Like bar none, like this is, you know, the best part of the game for me. This is, you know, the thing that gets me the most excited. I think you mentioned it already, but I want to see if, you know, there's...
Oh, I mean, there's a couple of them. I mean, I think a part of that sort of like the differences of the different player counts is one of the things that like really just
I got the impression reading the rule book that it would feel very different at a different player count, and I hope that I get to try it with other players soon, so I can actually you know, be like, yes, this is absolutely
I think one of them. The other one is maybe the icon for buzzing, the little bee with the sunglasses on. I really fell in love with that when I first saw
Oh
it.
yeah, I
like,
remember that.
Look at how cute this little bee is. Oh wait, do I have it? There
oh, you do? I was gonna pull mine out. It's so cute.
I know, the little buzzing bee. When I saw that, I was just like, oh, this is perfect.
No, it's I remember opening the box and like when I was I think I remember being like, oh my gosh, look, it's a bee and it's buzzing.
Yeah,
that's really fun.
That was definitely one of my favorite things.
I also like the rock paper scissors. So maybe that's because I won a rock paper scissors championship one. Sorry. So is there anything about the game, like, you know, in its final state that you maybe wish was a little bit different, or you think that you could have, you know, taken a different approach to?
Not really. There was actually a few things that we changed at the very last minute that we were kind of unsure about, and I'm really glad we did. I think a few of the last minute changes were we shifted around how the tiebreaker worked, and made it a little bit of a catch-up mechanic, just in case players were struggling. That tiebreaker can be there to sort of help out a little bit. So we appreciated like that WizKids trusted us enough to kind of, you know, in the last few weeks we were like, I think this would be a little bit more interesting if we did it this way. And they were like, all right, so we were able to just like do a bunch of play tests of that and just make sure that it worked out well. And I'm really glad we did, because I think that change just helps raise the experience for everybody across the board. And it creates some interesting moments too, because when you have the tiebreaker card, you're also the last player to resolve actions if there's multiple people resolving them. So you also have a little bit more control in that scenario too.
Right.
Like you get to do make your final sort of choice after everybody else has gone, and hopefully that helps you too. So it was nice to sneak that one in there.
So sorry, my computer is just deciding to not cooperate right now. So you kind of mentioned this again, you know, already, but I want to go back to it because I want to kind of hear you elaborate on it even more. What was like that was not a word. What were the biggest surprises you encountered while you were designing the game? You know, what were your most surprising, exciting moments? Anything like that?
Yeah, there's definitely a few moments that happen in this game that still, even though I understand as a designer that they're like possible and it can
Right.
happen, it's still always a surprise and kind of exciting moments when it happens. And one of them is when, and it happens in almost every game. There's usually like two people, sometimes more, that are just on the same page, and they do very similar actions round after round. It happens sometimes, and it's really strange to kind of see people be in sync. But I think it works. I think it's a nice thing to sort of watch that happen,
Right.
because you can see people thinking about the game strategy in kind of the same way. And usually that happens on the first playthrough. And that
Yeah.
after that, people start to realize, okay, there's like three different ways I can go about this depending on how other people are playing.
Right.
And then you start to see those differences. So it's always fun to watch like players with their first experience with the game, kind of trying to work through some of the strategy. But they're butting heads all the time, and it's kind of hilarious. You're like, how
Yeah.
do you keep doing that the same thing as me over and over again?
Yeah.
This shouldn't be happening. But it's funny when it happens. So it's cool to watch that.
Awesome. So, what would you say is the most unique thing about this game to you? You know, either, you know, in general or from other games you've worked on, anything like that. Like, what is, like, the, like, star of the show to you?
Ooh, the star of the show.
Yes.
I think we really, and it took forever. It took forever to reach a point where the action cards for the rock paper scissors felt balanced.
Okay.
We must have gone through 30 sort of iterations of the effects of those cards, and how they cancel out each other to make sure that they all felt very useful throughout the entire game. And the fact that it is working just feels really good.
Yeah.
Because we went through so so many iterations of that. It really feels good to say, oh no, this actually works. It actually functions the way we want it to. So I feel really good about how that rock paper scissors part of the game came together, because those actions were difficult. And
Yeah.
I mean, shout out to all of the people who made suggestions for that, because we really needed every suggestion to kind of work through and test out to make sure it was working.
See, for me, the star of the show is the bee with sunglasses.
It makes sense. It's the cutest.
So, you know, we've talked about the game. We've talked about your design process. Now let's talk about you.
Me?
Yes, you. So, you mentioned we talked about Board Game Brothas that you co-founded with your brother. You know, that's based in New Orleans. You know, produced Rap Gods. Is there anything else you want to talk about with that particular, you know, company, the design company? Anything you want to mention?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we started the company, and I think we are really intent on this being a part of the company for as long as we exist. But
Right.
we just wanted to just highlight more themes surrounding Black history and Black culture.
Yeah.
So as much as we can kind of stay in that space, we're gonna keep making those games. And I think in the coming months, we are changing our philosophy a little bit
Okay.
about how we go about that. And hopefully we're gonna grow our company a little bit and bring in someone who has sort of more knowledge and expertise in that area specifically, and also someone who's able to connect with the community more.
Yeah.
So we're having those conversations now and trying to push the company in a direction that brings more people into the gaming hobby and into the gaming community, and really create some very new and different games. And I think, yeah, we want that process to feel very fresh and different, and really, and experimental a little bit. I think a lot of what we're going to do from here on out is going to be a tiny bit untested. And so we're just going to keep doing it though, because it's fun. Making games is fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's important work, you know, really bringing more diversity to the industry, not in just in terms of the people working on the games, but in terms of, you know, the themes that you're tackling. And, you know, like I said earlier, there's 1,000,001 fantasy games, there's 1,000,001 mystery games, and, you know, why not take these themes that, you know, people aren't really maybe not exploring as much as they could be, and really, you know, approaching them from the perspective of someone who is, you know, in that community. And I think that's really important. I think it's such great work. It's really fantastic.
There's space for all sorts of weird crossover. Like the more we go into hip hop, the more we go into dance themes, we have opportunity to mix those up with all of the themes we know and love. So eventually there'll be a weird crossover hip hop fantasy game out there somewhere.
Honestly, I would play the hell out of that.
Right. We just need, I think, more people who are passionate about all these different things to be able to start making games.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And especially because it makes the community more welcoming, you know, to people seeing themes and seeing characters that they relate to. And, you know, that's also really important. So really, thank you for all the work you're doing. So one other thing I wanted to ask about is you're the president of the Indie Game Design Network. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, sure. So it's Indie Game Developer Network. And yeah, IGDN, we are a volunteer-run organization who the focus is really to provide support. And we do that, we try and do that in a bunch of different ways for indie developers. And so that's basically, if you're making tabletop games and you're a small entity or you're new, a lot of the times that's the people who need the most support. And so having a small trade organization to kind of operate in that space, I think is a really necessary and useful thing. And so that's a part of what we're doing. And a lot of it is helping people to network and connect. I think the thing that can really hurt indie developers and publishers is recreating the wheel when they aren't connected enough to the industry to kind of understand how some of the things work, understand like how they should be using their resources. So the one of the aims of IGDN is to provide some sort of assistance in that way, creating those connections, pointing people towards resources that they can use and help to kind of lift them up, help them break into the industry, but also break out and do the things that they want to do within the industry once they sort of figured it out. But it's a long process, I think, to go through that, whether you're just starting out or if you've been doing it for a while. There's so much to learn. The industry is so big and quite complex in terms of how we do business. So I think, the IGDN really is just there to kind of help support all those things.
That's really spectacular. You know, uplifting indie designers. You know, I feel like you go to a con, you see all these companies and everyone's so big, and, you know, having resources for people who, you know, either want to eventually maybe start their own companies or they want to stay indie and they want to, you know, keep approaching it from that, I think is so important. And it's important to uplift those people too. And like in, you know, to kind of step away from board games for a second, you see that a lot in video games, you know, but it's still, I think, a relatively new thing for board games. And now that, you know, our industry is kind of having a bit of a renaissance, it's a great time to be doing that.
Yeah, I think it absolutely is. We are, and I think we've all kind of struggled in a lot of the same ways. So more so, it feels like everyone is really helpful and kind of wanting to help other people as much as they can. We see a lot of that with our members. And so it's nice that we can sort of, you know, provide some benefits like IGDN is able to have a booth. So if you aren't able to get booth space at
Right.
conventions, sometimes that's a benefit. But people just behind the scenes are also just very willing to like talk to each other and help each other out. We're doing a series of talks right now, marketing talks, for folks to kind of learn, and we have some amazing guests who are helping out in that regard too. And really it's nice to be a part of an organization that people connect with in a way that makes them want to help out, makes them want to contribute in some way. So it's been pretty cool so far. Hopefully we can do more while I'm still the president.
Yeah.
But it's hard work, and the industry is changing so quickly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes it's hard to keep up, but I think we're gonna do okay.
That's great. So last question. It's the big one. It's the one I ask everyone who comes on this show. Besides your game, besides Summertime, what is your favorite WizKids game?
Okay, I've prepared for this. I still have to pick two. I can't just pick one, but for very different reasons. I think Quarriors was one of the first few games that I played when I got back into the industry, or back into the hobby, really, when I started playing board games again, like 8-9 years ago. I got a chance to play that, and I'm a sucker for just like ridiculous amounts of dice rolling. So it's very easy to kind of fall into a game like that. But it was great. It combined a lot of things that I was just not used to in board games when I first played it. So it feels like my OG WizKids, top choice. But I've really, really, really been impressed with Super Skill Pinball.
Oh, wow,
and,
yes.
And just the way that game works is so amazing, and rolling rights and flipping rights. I usually enjoy them, but they kind of tend to have a little bit of a limit in terms of like how much I like them.
Right.
But Super Skill Pinball just like surprises, like it's just so good. It's just so good how many little concepts from pinball machines they were able to infuse into the gameplay, and it feels just like interesting every single time.
Right.
A lot of times in rolling rights, I fall into patterns and I play sort of the same game every time.
Right.
But it feels like you can't do that with Super Skill Pinball, and with the different tables, it just like changes it up just enough so you really are figuring out the game as you play it every time.
Yeah. So on our YouTube, one of our watchers, Ministry of Dice, is from a website called BritRoller6, and they were saying that you want to get some Dice Masters on the go.
Dice Masters, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, Dice Masters is based on Quarriors' design, so, it makes sense.
Right? Good jump back in there.
So, yeah, I love Super Skill Pinball. It's like I'd mentioned to you earlier, it's the game that got me into Rollin' Rights. It's just such a fun game, and the theme is so much fun. And, I think that especially as you're someone who works on such thematic games, I can see, alongside the fantastic mechanics, why, you would fall in love with a game as amazing as Super Skill Pinball. And of course, I have to plug, we have Super Skill Pinball Ramp It Up coming soon. In actually this month's coming issue of Game Trade Magazine, which is free at your friendly local game store, there is a print and play of it. There's a free demo. Check it out. There's also a print and play on our WizKids.com, so check that out. But with that being said, Omari, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to me. It has been a pleasure hearing about your process, and just hearing about the game, talking about, everything with you. Is there anything else you want to mention before I let you go?
No, that's it. This has just been a wonderful process. Yeah, working with WizKids, I gotta say, yeah, they were really helpful and useful and just like giving us the direction that we needed when we needed it, but also giving us the flexibility to like find a cool game in this license, kind of in our own way. So yeah, just really appreciate that, and yeah, really excited that we got to hang out today and talk a little bit, and can't wait to see more Summertime out there.
Yay! If you would like to order Summertime from your friendly local game store, it is available now. If your game store does not have it, have them place an order with their distributor. You can get it right away, so definitely pick that up. If you are not able to access your friendly local game store, you can also order it online. Summertime, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Summertime from WizKids, 1999. Definitely order it. Yes, it's so cool. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Thank you, Omari, for talking to me today. Everyone, I hope you all have a great week. I love you. Noodles loves you. Omari loves you. Probably.
Yes, of course.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.